Hello and welcome to the All Monitor Brief. I'm Kristen Tolman. Today's main segment is a conversation with Jennifer Gnana, All Monitor's Gulf correspondent, who will speak to a new change in Saudi Arabia investment law that is meant to reassure investors of the kingdom's plan to divert from a solely oil economy into other sectors. But first, let's get you caught up on the headlines. A Fatah official was killed in an Israeli strike in Lebanon's southern city of Sidon on Wednesday, the first member of a Palestinian group to be assassinated inside Lebanon since the Israel-Hezbollah hostilities began last October. Israel and Hezbollah exchanged cross-border strikes on Wednesday, killing at least one person in eastern Lebanon and leaving another injured in the Israeli-annexed Golan Heights. Sudanese officials and the United Nations have reported a surge in cholera cases amid several weeks of torrential rains that have battered parts of Sudan and displaced thousands. In war-torn Gaza, death appears to be the only certainty for 2.5 million Palestinians with no way to escape Israel's relentless bombardment, a UN official said Tuesday, recounting the growing desperation across the territory. A young Israeli woman who had become the face of the 251 hostages seized by Hamas on October 7th said Wednesday that she thought every night in captivity would be her last, calling her survival a miracle. And on Wednesday, Turkey's foreign minister spoke to U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken on the phone in a call initiated by the U.S. side. They discussed Israel-Gaza conflict details and the ceasefire agreement that increasingly looks that it has dim prospects. On to the main segment. Hey, Jennifer, welcome to the All Monitor Brief.
Hi, Kristen. Thank you for having me.
So, Jennifer, you wrote this week that Saudi Arabia was changing a investment law to reassure foreign investors. What exactly is that law and when does it go into effect?
So Saudi Arabia last week said it was amending its investment law. A key part of the amendment is it's removing the term foreign. It's unifying it, calling it an investment law. And the law goes into force on the 7th of February in 2025. Now, one of the reasons behind this amendment is to encourage investors, both foreign and local, that they will have an equal platform, that they can invest and develop Saudi Arabia's economy as equal stakeholders.
Okay. And the reason why this is interesting, or it seems interesting, is there needs to be this incentive for investors, or maybe just an increased incentive. And Saudi Arabia specifically has its Vision 2030, which as the years move on, is increasingly closer. Do you think this will incentivize foreign investors?
Foreign investors have always been interested in Saudi Arabia ever since the government decided to list a part of Saudi Aramco. There has been a lot of interest and there's been a lot of scrutiny as well on Saudi Arabia's openness to business. A lot of investors and private capital has always been interested in coming into Saudi Arabia because it's the biggest economy in the Gulf. There are so many new projects. It's also an economy that, apart from oil, has the capacity to diversify even more. Saudi Arabia has a lot of mineral resources. It also has a lot of wind current. So, for instance, developing renewables is also something Saudi Arabia has pushed for, which would require foreign investment. There are multiple sectors in the economy that Saudi Arabia cannot develop through its oil wealth alone. It would need foreign partnership, which has always been of interest to various investors. What has been challenging is Saudi Arabia's earliest sort of restrictive nature in terms of granting licenses, granting opportunities for foreign investor. They've had to tie up with Saudi firms. And what this law allows is it allows these foreign investors to actually invest 100% into certain sectors, with the exception of those related to national security matters, which will remain with Saudi nationals. But now they have the freedom to invest, let's say, in special economic zones without any bias. So these are new changes that will excite people who've been waiting and watching to see how the Saudi economy continues to evolve beyond oil.
Wow. Okay. And I mean, is this also, if I step back a little bit and then look at the region as a whole, I mean, there are certain stipulations in the UAE market, for example, that is a little bit more binding. Do you think that this will lure some companies or investors to go to Saudi Arabia over other Gulf players?
Saudi Arabia has been encouraging investors to come and base themselves in Riyadh, which it's been developing as a financial hub. Now, Saudi Arabia has tough competition in the Middle East. Dubai is a well-established place. It is more relaxed norms when it comes to lifestyle, and Saudi Arabia has encouraged several changes within its society in order to encourage expats to feel comfortable, to set up companies, to bring the families. But one of the things that this law stipulates, which I think will ease concerns, is about dispute resolution. Now, Dubai does have very strong dispute resolution laws. And under this new investment law, which will come into force next year, they would have alternative dispute resolution methods such as arbitration, mediation, conciliation. So this will encourage a lot of investors who might have been concerned about fair play, that they will be treated equally and they will have access to laws whenever they need it.
And there's been reports that 2030 has faced challenges. Is this just one of the levers that the Saudi government can pull to get things back on track, or is this really a main vehicle for that? How do you see this law playing out?
I think the law fits naturally within Saudi Arabia's evolution as an economy. They are looking to build a very strong financial services hub. They are looking to, as I said before, diversify away from oil, which means developing all sectors and also providing, a solid base for several other industries to grow with the backing of the financial services industry. We've had BlackRock, for instance, set up headquarters earlier this year. But at the same time, there have been other changes within its economy. Earlier this year, Saudi Aramco said it would be scaling back some of its oil production capacity targets. So they set a plan to raise oil production capacity by 1 million barrels per day by 2027, will be put on hold for now. And also plans to develop NEOM, which is this mega sustainable city, is also being revisited. Plans for this project called The Line have been downscaled from hosting 1.5 million residents to about 300,000 by 2030. So there have been changes within the economy. However, these changes to the investment law would be slightly separate to that. I think there is willingness to modernize and privatize certain aspects of the Saudi economy as it continues to evolve, which is part of Vision 2030, while at the same time being very realistic about where the global economy is heading, as well as regional economies are heading. Several countries in the region, like the UAE, are working very strongly towards the energy transition goals and are also trying to modernize some of their businesses to reflect, for instance, oil companies rebranding themselves as more of energy companies, changing the narrative around oil being, the dominant fuel, to adopting other forms of energy. So Saudi Arabia's evolution also ties into that. It also wants to be seen as leading this sort of progress towards a more sustainable future.
Okay, Jennifer, thank you so much for keeping our listeners up to the minute.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. You can read all these stories and more at allmonitor.com.